Hey there. Tonight, we're heading back in time to the rugged American West of the 1800s. Picture endless plains where the wind carries dust across the open land. And life as a cowboy was nothing like the romantic adventures Hollywood likes to show us. Together, we'll uncover what it truly meant to live beneath those wide, endless skies, riding from sunrise to sunset, relying on nothing but your horse, your instincts, and pure determination to survive. Before we start, if you're enjoying these stories, I'd really appreciate a like or a quick subscribe. And hey, I'm curious, where are you listening from right now? Drop a comment with your location and the time where you are. Now, find a comfortable spot. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your body relax completely as we travel back in time together. Congratulations, you've just opened your eyes in the American West, sometime in the 1870s. The morning air is cool and crisp against your skin. As your eyes adjust to the first pale light of dawn, you realize you're lying on a simple bedroll, spread across the hard-packed earth. Your back aches from another night under the open, star-filled sky. The wool blanket beneath you feels rough, and the oilcloth wrapped around your gear is stiff and cold to the touch. All around, faint movement stirs. Your fellow cowboys are waking, getting ready for yet another long day on the trail. You push yourself upright, your muscles protesting after yesterday's 14 hours in the saddle. Your legs are bowed from years of riding, and your hands, rough, cracked, and scarred, tell stories of rope burns, harsh weather, and endless work. You've been on this cattle drive for 3 weeks now, pushing 2,000 longhorns north from Texas toward the railhead in Abilene, Kansas. If luck's on your side and the weather stays calm, you've got about 3 more weeks to go. That is, if nothing spooks the herd. The smell of coffee pulls you fully awake. Cookie, the camp cook, is already up, stoking the fire beside the chuck wagon. He's probably the grumpiest man you've ever met, but right now, that doesn't matter. The rich aroma of coffee beans boiling in that dented metal pot makes him seem like an angel sent from heaven. Your mouth waters at the thought of that first hot sip, cutting through the trail dust that's lodged in your throat. "Rise and shine, boys," calls the trail boss, his voice rough and commanding after years of yelling over the wind and the roar of cattle. Sun's coming up, and them cows ain't gonna move themselves. You rake your fingers through your hair, feeling the grit, the grease, and the dust that's built up after days without a wash. The bandana around your neck will soon come up over your nose and mouth to block out the worst of the dust. Your Stetson hat, beaten by rain, sun, and time, sits ready beside your bedroll. Out here, those wide brims aren't just for style. They're the difference between keeping your skin or watching it blister under the merciless desert sun. Around camp, about 15 other cowboys are doing the same, rolling up their bedding, pulling on worn boots, and heading for the coffee pot. They're a tough mix of men, former slaves from the South, Mexican vaqueros who taught the American cowboys much of what they know, European immigrants chasing fortune, and young men born right here on the frontier, raised in the saddle. Despite their different stories, out here on the trail, they're all the same, cowboys, earning the same pay, facing the same dangers, and enduring the same backbreaking days beneath that endless sky. You reach for your boots and give them a firm shake before sliding your feet inside. It's more than just a habit. It's survival. Scorpions and spiders love the cozy darkness, inside a cowboy's boot, and you learned long ago that one quick shake could spare you from a sting you'd never forget. The tough leather has molded perfectly to your feet after months of wear. The narrow toes and high heels weren't made for fashion. They're built for riding. Those high heels keep your boots from slipping through the stirrups when your horse starts to move. Out here, every detail has a purpose. Breakfast in 5, Cookie's voice rings out across camp. If you want it hot, you'd better get here before it's gone. No one needs to hear that twice. You tuck your bedroll under your arm and make your way toward the chuck wagon, falling in line with the others waiting for their morning meal. The chuck wagon itself is a marvel, an old army wagon transformed into a rolling kitchen. A large wooden box on the back holds everything from sacks of flour and beans to cast iron pans, coffee pots, and even a few simple medical supplies. It was only about 10 years ago that Charles Goodnight came up with the idea, and it changed life on the trail forever. Before that, cowboys had to make do with whatever they could cram into their saddlebags. Cookie slaps a dented metal plate into your hands, piles it high with beans and bacon, and moves on to the next man without a word. It's the same meal you've had every day this week, and probably the same one you'll have tomorrow. But a hot food is hot food, and out here, that's reason enough to be grateful. You take your plate and your tin cup of steaming coffee and settle down on the cool ground. As you eat, you watch the sky lighten in the east. The first rays of sunlight stretch across the plains, and you can already tell it's going to be another scorcher. The air feels dry and heavy, the kind of heat that seems to start building before the sun even rises. Still, there's one bit of good news. Not a cloud in sight. Rain might sound nice after days of dust and sweat, but every cowboy knows the danger a storm brings. Lightning can send a herd of longhorns into a blind panic, turning the open prairie into a stampede of death. You've seen it happen before. Your stomach tightens at the memory of Jackson, your friend who was trampled 2 years back when his horse stumbled in the middle of a night stampede. You can still hear the thunder of hooves, the desperate shouts, and then silence. You done daydreaming? A familiar voice cuts through your thoughts. It's Diego, one of the vaqueros, watching you with a teasing grin beneath the wide brim of his sombrero. Boss says we're moving out in 10 minutes. You nod, gulp down the last of your coffee, and feel the hot liquid burn pleasantly on its way down. The beans and bacon are already gone. You've learned to eat fast out here. Time waits for no cowboy, and anyone who lingers too long might miss their chance. Cookie grunts as you hand back your empty plate. Maybe a thank you, maybe not. Either way, you head back to your bedroll, rolling it tight and tying it up with the same practice motions you've done 100 times before. Everything you own in the world fits into this small bundle: a spare shirt, an extra pair of socks, a pouch of tobacco, your straight razor, and a worn photograph of your mother. Tucked safely inside your boot is $35, your hard-earned pay for more than a month's work. It's not much, but it's enough to keep you fed and sheltered through the cold months when the cattle drives stop and ranch work slows down. You fasten the bedroll behind your saddle, then run your hands over your horse, checking the reins, tightening the cinch, and giving the animal a reassuring pat. Another long day is waiting just beyond the horizon. This gelding has been your partner for 3 years now, a steady, sure-footed horse with sharp instincts and the kind of cow sense that can't be taught. You run your hands slowly down his legs, feeling for any swelling or warmth that might hint at an injury. Finding nothing to worry about, you crouch to check his hooves, flicking out small stones and clumps of packed dirt. Out here, a lame horse isn't just bad luck. It's a death sentence, not just for the animal, but possibly for you too. The nearest town is 4 days' ride away, and no cowboy can keep up with a cattle drive on foot. Mount up. The trail boss's command cuts through the morning air. In an instant, the camp erupts into motion, men tightening cinches, checking gear, and swinging into their saddles. The air is cool and still as you grab the reins, plant your boot in the stirrup, and hoist yourself onto your horse. The leather creaks beneath you, familiar and comforting, like an old friend greeting your return. Your body settles naturally into the saddle, molded by years of long rides and hard work. Every muscle knows its place. Every movement feels second nature. You nudge your horse forward and take your position in line. Today, you're riding flank, keeping the herd tight, chasing down any strays that try to wander off into the open prairie. Ahead of you, the point riders are already guiding their mounts toward the bed ground, the spot where the cattle rested through the night. As the sunlight strengthens, the scene before you comes alive. A sea of Texas longhorns stretching across the land. Some are still lying down. Others are up on their feet, grazing on thin patches of grass. Their long, curving horns gleam in the early light, some stretching 6 feet wide from tip to tip. These aren't the calm, heavy beef cattle of modern ranches. These are wild-blooded longhorns, descendants of Spanish stock, hardened by the brutal conditions of the frontier. They're lean, stubborn, and quick to anger if pushed too far. The work begins. Point riders circle the front of the herd, setting the pace, while the drag riders bring up the rear, coaxing the slow ones to move. You and the other flank riders guide the sides, keeping the animals bunched together. Your horse moves beneath you like an extension of your own body, responding to every subtle shift of weight, every squeeze of your knees. This is where skill and instinct matter most, knowing when to press, when to hold back, when to let the herd flow naturally. A good cowboy doesn't fight the cattle. He reads them. He can sense when they're about to turn, when they're about to bolt, when something's wrong long before it happens. Soon, the herd is moving in a slow, steady rhythm. The ground trembles beneath thousands of hooves. Dust rises, thick and choking, turning the morning sun into a hazy, golden blur. You pull your bandana over your nose and mouth, but you know it won't help much. By the end of the day, you'll still be tasting dust in every breath. It'll burn your eyes, cling to your skin, and settle into every crease and fold of your body. There's no escaping it. Dust is part of the job, as much a part of a cattle drive as the longhorns themselves. The sun climbs higher, and the heat comes with it, relentless, punishing. By midday, it feels like you're riding through an oven. The air shimmers above the prairie grass, and the horizon wavers in the distance like a mirage. Sweat runs down your back, soaking your shirt before the wind dries it to stiff salt. Your lips crack, your throat burns. And no matter how many times you reach for your canteen, you force yourself to take only the smallest sips. The water has to last until sundown. Then, out of the corner of your eye, movement. A blur of motion. A young longhorn has broken from the herd, slipping through a narrow gap in the line. Without hesitation, you shift your weight and press your legs into your horse's sides. The gelding reacts instantly. His ears pin forward, muscles bunch, and in a heartbeat, you're off, racing after the stray, dust flying behind you as horse and rider become one. This, right here, is what you live for. These moments when horse and rider move as one, when instinct replaces thought, and every motion feels effortless. The thrill of the chase, the precision of the catch, the quiet pride of a job done right. This is the heartbeat of a cowboy's life. You close in on the yearling fast, your rope already sliding loose in your hand. With a practiced flick of your wrist, you send the lariat whirling overhead and let it fly. The loop sails through the air, settles neatly around the animal's neck, and tightens with a satisfying snap. Your horse reacts instantly, muscles tensing, hooves digging in as you pull the rope taut and guide the stray back toward the herd. It's a dance you've done countless times before, every movement precise, every motion dependent on trust. One wrong step, though, one slip, one tangle of rope, and you could find yourself on the ground with a furious longhorn charging straight at you. Still, there's beauty in it, danger and grace woven together, man, horse, and beast, moving to an ancient rhythm played out beneath the open sky. The yearling rejoins the herd, and you ease back into position along the flank. You coil your rope with tired but practiced hands, securing it to your saddle horn once again. Your arms burn from the effort, adding to the dull ache that's become a permanent part of your life. But there's no time for rest. Another stray bolts on the far side of the herd, and one of your fellow riders is already thundering after it. The afternoon stretches on endlessly, a blur of dust, sun, and repetition. Ride, watch, chase, return. It's monotonous work, but steady, the kind of rhythm that shapes a cowboy's days. The trail boss keeps a measured pace, aiming to cover around 15 miles before sunset. It doesn't sound like much, but moving 2,000 head of cattle across open country is slow, grueling work. Too fast, and the herd will lose weight, cutting into profits at market. Too slow, and you risk running out of water, grass, or worse, getting caught by the first snowstorm as you head north. As the sun dips lower in the sky, your thoughts drift toward the evening ahead. There'll be another meal of beans and bacon, maybe biscuits too, if Cookie's in a generous mood, and of course, coffee. Strong enough to float a horseshoe, as the men like to say. After that, a little rest, an hour or two at best, before the night watch begins. Every cowboy takes his turn keeping guard over the herd, watching for rustlers, listening for coyotes or wolves, staying alert for anything at all, that might spook the cattle into a stampede. Tonight, you're on second watch, which means a few short hours of sleep before being shaken awake around midnight. Not the best shift, but better than first watch. The unlucky few who ride out right after dinner, fighting to stay awake while the rest of the camp drifts into sleep. The trail boss raises his arm, signaling for a turn eastward. There's a creek nearby, small but enough to water the herd and the horses for the night. Finding a good bed ground takes skill. You need fresh water, enough grass for 2,000 hungry mouths, and some natural barriers to help contain the cattle. Tonight's spot looks promising. The creek winds along one side, and a gentle rise of land curves around the other, forming a natural corral. It's a good place to end a long, dusty day. As the sun finally touches the horizon, the sky explodes in shades of orange and red, a fiery farewell to another day on the trail. The longhorns, thirsty from the long drive, move eagerly toward the water, their low calls echoing across the prairie. Cowboys take up their positions around the herd, making sure they don't crowd too tightly at the creek or wander too far in search of better grass. You swing down from your saddle with a groan, every joint protesting. 14 hours in the saddle will do that. The ground feels strange beneath your feet, like it's moving, and your legs, bow-legged and stiff, mark you for what you are, a true trail cowboy. Your horse comes first, always. No matter how bone-tired or hungry you are, your mount takes priority. You slip off the saddle and bridle, running your hands carefully along his back and shoulders, checking for any tender spots or sores that might have formed during the long day's ride. Finding nothing worrisome, you grab a handful of grass and start brushing him down, wiping away the sweat and dust that cling to his coat. He exhales softly, eyes half-lidded, grateful for the attention. Only after your horse has been watered, fed, and secured for the night do you turn your thoughts toward yourself. The chuck wagon is already in place, cookie hard at work, turning the most basic ingredients into something that somehow smells heavenly. The aroma drifts across camp, drawing weary cowboys closer, like moths to a flame. Hunger wins out over exhaustion every time. You fall in line, trading quiet nods with the men beside you. Words are rare at this hour. The day has taken too much out of everyone. The simple act of standing feels like effort enough. Cookie slides a plate into your hands, beans and bacon again, maybe with a scrap of biscuit if he's feeling generous. You settle down on the cool ground, your body sinking gratefully into the earth. The first bite tastes better than any fine meal money could buy, not because of the flavor, but because your stomach is empty and the day is finally done. Around you, other cowboys eat in silence. A few finish quickly and stretch out on their bedrolls, boots still on, hats tilted forward to block the fading light. The low murmur of movement fades as the camp settles. When darkness finally swallows the last of the sunset, the first night riders mount up. 4 men for the first shift. Their silhouettes move quietly around the edge of the herd, their soft voices rising in song. Slow, steady, familiar tunes meant more for the cattle than for the men themselves. A cowboy's singing voice might not be pretty, but it serves a purpose. The rhythm and tone keep the herd calm, reminding the animals that the riders are nearby. Out here, silence can be dangerous. A sudden noise, a startled step, and panic could sweep through 2,000 longhorns like wildfire. You unroll your bedding on a patch of mostly level ground, not bothering to strip down. Only your boots come off, placed neatly beside you, where you can reach them fast if trouble starts. The night air cools quickly, a welcome change after the blistering heat, though you know it'll turn cold before dawn. You pull your blanket up tight, use your saddle for a pillow, and lie back beneath the stars. And what a sky it is, a vast, endless sea of light. So many stars that they seem to crowd the heavens, close enough to touch. The sounds of the night drift around you, the low murmur of cattle, the occasional snort of a horse, the whisper of wind across open grass. Out here, beneath this immense sky, the hardships of the trail fade for a while. The aches, the hunger, the danger, they all feel worth it somehow, because this is freedom, not the kind found in crowded cities or behind walls, but the kind that stretches as far as the eye can see. Your eyes grow heavy, your breathing slows, and sleep begins to pull you under. Tomorrow will bring more of the same: dust, heat, long hours in the saddle, and 2,000 restless longhorns to keep in line. But for now, that can wait. As you drift towards sleep, you catch the faint sound of a cowboy's voice carried on the night air, soft, mournful, and steady. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie. The song floats gently across the darkness, a lullaby for cattle and cowboys alike. Your muscles relax at last. The stars wheel silently overhead. The earth feels solid beneath you, and before long, exhaustion claims you completely. For now, there is only peace. A rough hand shakes your shoulder, dragging you up from the depths of sleep. Your watch comes a low whisper. It's Luis, one of the Mexican vaqueros. His face is little more than shadow, the faint gleam of eyes under the brim of his hat. All quiet so far, he adds. You blink hard, trying to force the fog of sleep from your head. Every joint protests as you push yourself upright, your body stiff and sore from the long day in the saddle. But there's no time to stretch or complain. Night watch isn't a chore, it's a duty, the safety of 2,000 head of cattle, not to mention every man sleeping in camp, depends on those riding the circle through the dark hours. Anything I ought to know? You ask. Voice still thick with sleep. Luis shrugs. Coyotes to the north, but they're keeping their distance. Herd's quiet. He hands you a tin cup. Coffee by the fire, still hot. You'll need it, colder than a banker's heart out there. He's right about that. The air bites the moment you sit up fully. You can see your breath, small puffs of mist hanging in front of your face. The plains always turn cold fast once the sun's gone. You pull on your boots, stamp your feet into them, and shrug into your old wool coat. It's seen better years, patched and worn thin at the elbows. But tonight, it feels like the finest thing you own. The fire's burned low, just glowing coals with the occasional flicker of flame licking upward. Cookie's already rolled up in his blankets nearby, snoring softly, ready to wake before dawn and do it all over again. You pour a tin cup of coffee from the pot resting on a flat rock near the edge of the fire. It's thick and bitter, like drinking burnt earth. But the warmth between your hands feels like life itself. You take a long swallow, the heat clawing its way down your throat and settling deep in your chest. Then you set the cup aside, grab your hat, and head toward the horses. Your gelding lifts his head as you approach, ears pricking forward. Just a few hours' work, old boy, you murmur, running a hand along his neck. His hide is cool now, his breath visible in the moonlight. He stands steady as you throw the saddle blanket and then the worn leather saddle across his back. The straps creak softly in the stillness. You check the cinch twice, once for safety, once for certainty. Out here, a loose saddle could mean a broken neck. Mounting up, you pause a moment to take in the night. The sky is impossibly clear, a velvet sea dusted with stars so bright they look close enough to pluck from the heavens. A three-quarter moon hangs low, its silver light painting the land in soft shadows. The herd lies ahead, a vast, dark mass that moves and breathes as one. Most of the cattle are bedded down, their low sighs and gentle snorts forming a slow, steady rhythm, the heartbeat of the open range. You spot the other night riders, spaced evenly around the herd, their silhouettes faint against the horizon. 4 men, riding slow circles at a walk, lanterns of sound rather than light. You guide your horse toward your assigned position and settle into the steady motion that defines the watch. The rules are simple. Ride the circle. Keep your eyes open. Sing or hum just loud enough to let the cattle know you're there. The sound calms them, reminds them that everything's all right, that they're safe, that no shadows are creeping close. Sometimes, night watch is peaceful, almost soothing. like rocking on a slow tide. Other times, it's the loneliest, tensest work in the world. A sudden noise, a flash of lightning, or the faintest whiff of predator, and the whole herd can surge into motion. 2,000 half-wild longhorns, turning the prairie into chaos. But tonight feels quiet, the kind of stillness that seeps into your bones. Your horse's hooves make a soft, rhythmic whisper through the dry grass. Somewhere, off in the distance, a coyote yips, answered faintly by another farther off. A lone nighthawk calls overhead, its wings slicing the air in lazy arcs. You start to hum, a tune you've known for years. Something slow and mournful about home, love lost, and the long miles in between. Every cowboy knows songs like it, songs that make the loneliness a little easier to bear. As your circle brings you around the far side of the herd, you catch sight of Jose, another rider on the watch. He lifts a hand, the brim of his hat tilting in silent greeting. You nod back, but say nothing. Out here, silence carries, and too much noise can spook the herd. You ride on. The night stretches wide and endless, the stars wheeling slowly overhead. Somewhere behind you, the fire burns low, guarding the sleeping men. Ahead lies the great dark shape of the herd, the heart of the drive, and your quiet vigil to keep it safe until dawn. There's an unspoken rule among cowboys. Night watch isn't just for guarding the herd. It's a time for thinking, for remembering, for letting the mind wander down trails that daylight doesn't allow. As your horse moves in an easy rhythm beneath you, your thoughts drift. You think back to how you ended up here 5 long years ago. You were only 17 then, a farm boy out of Missouri with nothing but a restless heart and a head full of wild dreams. Back then, the idea of cowboy life sounded like freedom, open skies, endless adventure, and the kind of stories men told around campfires. But reality was quick to burn that shine away. You learned fast that the work was brutal, the hours long, the pay barely enough to keep a man fed. Danger was constant. Storms, stampedes, rustlers, and worse. And between those bursts of terror came days so dull and repetitive they could drive a man crazy. Yet here you are, half a decade later, still in the saddle. You've passed up chances at easier work, jobs in the new rail towns, or the growing settlements as out west. You tell yourself it's the freedom that keeps you here, the open land, the horizon that never ends. But deep down, maybe it's just that after all these years, you wouldn't know how to live any other way. A flicker of motion pulls you from your thoughts, something moving low and quick through the shadows at the edge of the herd. Instinct kicks in. Your hand drops to the revolver on your hip, thumb brushing the hammer. You lean forward slightly, eyes narrowing. Then you exhale, just a coyote. The little scavenger trots easily along the perimeter, keeping its distance from the massive longhorns. Smart creature, knows better than to get too close. It's probably hoping to find scraps, or maybe flush out a rabbit stirred by the herd's movement. You shift in the saddle, trying to find a more comfortable position. Your lower back throbs from the long hours of riding. Your legs tingle, half numb, half aching, the way they always do after a full day in the saddle. Cowboys like to joke that they feel more natural on horseback than on their own 2 feet. Truth is, neither offers much comfort after weeks on the trail. The night grows deeper, colder. Your breath hangs in small white clouds as you exhale. You pull your coat tighter and flex your fingers inside your gloves. They're nothing fancy, just worn leather work gloves, more suited for handling rope than fending off the cold. But they keep your skin from cracking and your grip sure. You flex your hands again, feeling the stiffness in your knuckles. If something happens, a spooked herd, a sudden chase, you'll need your hands to obey without hesitation. Time crawls. The stars shift slowly across the black sky, your only measure of passing hours. The world feels frozen in place. Nothing but the faint sighs of cattle, the creak of leather, the rhythm of your horse's breathing. In moments like this, your mind starts playing tricks. Shadows move where nothing's moving. Shapes rise where only sagebrush stands. It takes years to learn how to stay alert without letting nerves get the better of you. That's the mark of a good night rider. Steady eyes, steady hands, steady heart. Then, a sound. You straighten slightly. Every sense sharpened. It wasn't from the herd. You know that much. There it is again. Faint, but unmistakable. The soft snort of a horse. Only it isn't one of yours. A slow chill creeps up your spine. Your heart begins to thud heavier in your chest as you scan the horizon, eyes sweeping over the pale stretch of moonlit prairie. Could be a wild Mustang wandering near camp. Could be nothing at all. Or it could be trouble. Indians, maybe, though less likely these days. More often, it's rustlers, men who know the trade, who can slip in under darkness and cut out a few cattle without raising a sound. You ease a hand up from your reins and make a subtle motion toward 𝙃𝙖, the next rider on the circle. He's a dark shape against the stars, but you see his hat tip slightly in acknowledgement. He's seen your signal. Whatever's out there, you're not alone in facing it. As you and 𝙃𝙧 melt into the shadows, the night seems to hold its breath. Somewhere out there, beyond the herd, beyond the faint glow of the dying campfire, something moves. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's the start of real trouble. Out here, you learn quick that peace never lasts long. The cattle shift restlessly, a low murmur rolling through the herd like distant thunder. Your horse flicks an ear tense beneath you. One wrong sound, one flash of movement, and 2,000 head of longhorn could explode into a stampede that'll shake the earth for miles. You tighten your grip on the reins, eyes locked on the horizon. Whatever's waiting out there in the dark, you'll face it the same way you've faced everything else on this trail, with grit, with courage, with the quiet certainty that when dawn finally breaks, you'll still be in the saddle. The life of a cowboy isn't about glory, it's about endurance, dust, sweat, loneliness, and a stubborn kind of freedom that most folks will never understand. As the stars wheel overhead and the herd settles once more, you let out a long, steady breath. Another night on the trail, another story written in dust and starlight. If you enjoyed this journey through the old American West, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know where you're listening from. The frontier's full of stories, and this one's just getting started. Until next time, partner, keep your coffee hot, your horse steady, and your eyes on the horizon.